was your
Yeah,
attire last night? What did you wear? Did you dress up for the draft?
did not dress up for the draft.
No?
No,
Who
just
was the best
t-shirt.
dressed?
To be honest, I only watched until pick 17 to see if the Lakers were going to do the unthinkable draft Friday at 17. And as soon as they didn't, it was like, click, let me watch something else.
If Dalton Knott's not there, do they maybe take Bronny?
I mean, yes.
You got to think so, right? Like that. Dalton Knott. So he was more or less a lottery pick in everyone's mind.
Correct.
SEC Player of the Year, probably most improved, maybe one of the better shooters, along with Reed Shepherd in that entire draft. And to get him at 17, it's tough not to take him. And if you don't, and you take Bronny, and it goes sour for your first pick as JJ Redick's now head coach,
Yeah.
that'd be a tough one to swallow. But day 2 is here.
Day 2 is here. And you know what? Big Ben and K Win are here every week on NoFilter.net, Caffeine TV, and YouTube. We also have an audio podcast, so download, listen, and subscribe. Tonight, we're going to get into the NBA draft. Bronny James, will he join his father? We'll talk a little NBA free agency and more. I'm K Win. He's Big Ben, and he will not get drafted tonight in round 2.
No. Although every time there's like a 6'6" guy and they call him a big, I'm like, man, I'm big then. I'm considered big in the NBA, I guess, now.
Would you be a 3?
I'd be a 3 and D guy. Yeah, that'd be me.
I worry about the D, not the 3.
Actually, for me, it's the inverse. I don't worry about the D. Like, I can box out. I can stay in front of you. It's the 3 part that'd be tough. It would have to be the 3 would have to be considered up fake into your body, lay it in, and 1. That's considered 3 for me.
No, but you play for the Celtics, you just get in the corner and then they swing it around. You don't have to do any of the work. Look at Al Horford. You are today's Al Horford.
I'm Al Horford on this podcast. I will be around forever until we win a championship.
That's right.
Winners, losers from last night.
Losers are everyone who watched the draft, because this draft is one of the worst of all times. I want to get right into it. There are no Hall of Famers, no superstars, no NBA All-Stars in this draft. This was a role player draft, which is fine. But there's no top-end talent. There's no Wemby. There's no Anthony Edwards. There's no LaMelo Ball. But that is fine, because you got to fit your role. You got to find the right people.
I'm going to argue that point.
Argue it away.
I think it's just people didn't know who, there's not enough lead up to the draft. There's been a lot going on where and there's not like your traditional NBA training camp anymore. A lot of these guys come in, they just get fitted, measured, they work out for individual teams. We don't see these guys over the course of 2 to 3 weeks. It used to be you could track a guy through Portsmouth and see him play out, and then they'd work their way up the draft boards. Now teams are just drafting with the hopes. You see a lot of foreign players, a lot of French players on the top. So a lot of people aren't familiar. Traditional people aren't familiar. They're familiar with Donovan Clingan. They're familiar with Zach Edey. They're familiar with, unless you're dialed into Kentucky, you're not even familiar with Reed Shepherd all that much. So you have a lot of unknowns.
The draft has changed, right?
Yeah.
I think the draft has changed. It's become more international and it's got younger. And because it's gotten younger, older players like Dalton Knecht suffer because they think if you've been around this long, you're this old, there's something wrong with your game. You can't grow into the next level. But here's my problem with the draft is there was no bona fide superstars outside of like a Zach Edey and a Dalton Knecht, who in a regular year, I think they're a 10 to 16 draft pick. There's no Zion Williamson. There's no RJ Barrett. No, there's no Aaron Gordon. It's a bunch of people who have potential. Like Reed Shepherd, I think he will be a good pro, but what did he average? 12 points? Stephen Castle, option number 4, and then a bunch of Frenchmen who were journeymen in like the international circuit.
Yeah, there's not a ton of intrigue because there is a lot of unknowns. But I'd argue that that's half the fun. Did you know Nikola Jokic when he got drafted? Absolutely not. There's a lot of players that could emerge where when did he get drafted? Who did he get drafted by?
Nuggets, second round.
Yeah. Like a team like the Lakers, right? They're drafting for today. LeBron's only got so much time. They hope to bring him back. They go get Dalton Knecht. Then you look at other teams like the Wizards. They had 3 draft picks, I think, in the top 15. They draft guys that you haven't even heard of, but yet their front office is going, these guys are going to develop. We like what they can bring. Not year 1, not year 2, but year 3. So it's going to take some time for a lot of these players to develop in the NBA. And you're right. I was reading that in the second round, day 2, as we look at today, a lot of teams are going to be drafting 2 to 3 guys with 1 roster spot. Yeah. Like some of these guys are going to come in the NBA, not even probably make the team. So a lot of this is development, whether it's the G League, whether it's, NBDL or wherever you put them in the development league or whatever takes place behind the scenes. But a lot of these teams are drafting, and this isn't something foreign. Like the Thunder have done this previously. Yeah. They draft guys, they go let them play in Europe, continue to play, but they have the rights to them. And then they bring them over when they're ready.
It's an interesting draft because there's still, I think, players who are going to get drafted in the second round who are just as good as those players drafted 15 and on to the first round. You got Kyle Filipowski from Duke, right? Yep. Like he could be a good player. You got Cam Spencer from UConn. He could be the right player on the right team. You got Furphy from Kansas. So like this is, maybe I'll take a step back. There's just a lot of unknown in how these players will draft out. I think that the playing level is pretty equal, whether it's the 12th overall pick or the second round. Like you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people talking ceilings and floors. Like that's like, what's the ceiling of this player and what's the floor, right? Because we don't really know. So you're drafting on potential and then bust potential, figuratively. And for that to, pan out, it's and the Wizards probably just looked at it as, the team that had 3 picks in the top 15 is like, we're going to take some wild cards. One's going to hit, maybe 2 hit, but not all 3 are going to hit. And they realize that they're going to live with it. And they're willing to invest in it.
Shout out to the Utah Jazz drafting 2 players from the Pac-12. Cody Williams from Colorado, Isaiah Collier from USC. 2 players, great potential, freshmen. We don't know what their ceiling is, but Utah's got a lot of time on their hands to develop both of these athletes and potentially good players.
Moving forward, you see this changing at all?
The draft?
Yes, what we're seeing, what we saw last night, where unknowns, foreign-born players, foreign-playing players. I personally don't. I think this is becoming much more of a development league, where it used to be, I'm drafting a guy, he slots in tomorrow in the rotation somehow. There's a few of those guys in the NBA draft, depending on the needs of the team, but I don't see the draft changing all that much.
I think it's going to be a lot of picks projecting out to the future, a lot of international stars. I think this was a little blip on the radar in terms of we didn't have the frontline headline player. Like the most popular player in this draft is Bronny James. But next year you've got Cooper Flagg. And then after that, you've got what's Boozer's name, who played for the Jazz and the Bulls. He's got his 2 twin sons that are top. So like those guys are primetime players, the Boozers and Cooper Flagg. This year, it just kind of lacked it for whatever reason.
But even so, you talked about like the 4th option at Kentucky getting drafted. That's just ridiculous. That doesn't happen, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. That just maybe in the sense of like Shy, and maybe Kentucky is an anomaly here, but you don't see the 4th option on any team other than Kentucky get drafted in the lottery of the NBA. That just doesn't happen. It's all about projections. What was your? I'm gonna the Portland Trailblazers.
Ooh, Donovan Clingan.
See, if you can't score, you got to protect the rim, and that's what they've done. And I like Portland's draft there, and then I like Memphis.
But I'm confused because they have DeAndre Ayton.
But see, I think that frees. They see Ayton. Here's what I like. You see, Ayton he's a power forward. I would tell Ayton, you're a little soft. He likes to score. He's a scorer. If you give him the option and said, would you rather protect the rim or score? He's going to say score. You ask Donovan Clingan the same question. He says, I want to have 5 blocks a game and probably, defend the rim. So I think that frees him up. And then you have Anthony Simons. You're not scoring a ton if you're the Blazers. You just don't have that much firepower. Jeremiah Grant, So to go get clean, I think is a good omen for them. That helps them kind of round out their team and allow players to find the appropriate position. If you score less, or if the opponent scores less than you end up winning the game. And I think Klingon helps them in that formula.
Defense and rebounding. And then they have Scoot Henderson in year 2. I know he's a little bit of a disappointment in year 1, but if Scoot can get better, you got Hardaway, you got Grant. They've got some pieces. They're still multiple pieces away from making the playoffs, but it's a step in the right direction. Here's the draft I like. Minnesota Timberwolves. You know I'm high on Ant-Man, but they got Rob Dillingham from Kentucky in a trade. Dynamic scoring guard. They got Terrence Shannon Jr. from Illinois. So what did they do? They went out and grabbed offense because when it mattered in the playoffs, they couldn't score outside of Ant. And so they have that league-leading defense. They got some young players who potentially could help them score in tough situations. I like what the T-Wolves did, and I like what the Kings did. Devin Carter from Providence. He's like a Drew Holiday light. You know, Shaq called them the Sacramento Queens. Well, they kind of played like the Sacramento Queens last year. So they toughened up their team and toughened up their defense along with Malik Monk. They got Sabonis. They got Keegan Murray and De'Aaron Fox. Wow, I might be shifting from a Warriors fan to a Kings fan, Big Ben.
You just discussed, I want to call the Timberwolves a small market team now that A-Rod's invested into them. They've kind of elevated into more of a the bandwagon's a little bigger with the Timberwolves these days. Mike Conley is aging, so getting more young faces. And you're right. It was Ant option 1, Ant option 2, Ant option 3. Like there was nothing else around Ant. So supplementing him as a scorer is amazing. Small market team too in Memphis. They went out and got Zach Edey.
I like that.
I like that too. So you just discussed the Kings. We just discussed Portland. There's a little small market tussle I see coming around. And that's, I think, Memphis and the Portland Trailblazers. What I like with Edey going to Memphis is Jaren Jackson's good, but I think he's asked to do a lot down there. He's asked to be a rim protector. He's asked to be a scorer, and he's been able to do that. But to have Edey, again, similar in the way the Aton will now be freed up a bit down in the low post. I see that same thing happen with Edey and Jaren Jackson. Jaren Jackson's good. Yeah. He's better than Aton. So, pair him up with Ja. That was hurt. He went through some things last year and kind of, I don't know what happened with the whole.
Look out for Memphis because they were playing well when Ja was healthy. They've got Bane. And also they had Steven Adams, who took away a lot of the dirty work, the rebound, and the defensive. And I think Edey can step in and maybe he can be that guy off the bench that gives him a little bit more toughness.
Yeah. Overall, I think those small market teams outside of, Washington's not a small market team, big market in DC, but you can't take chances, right? If you're a small market team.
They're going to be a contracted team from the NBA.
They're going to be relegated. But you got to go out and invest in players that can play for you right now. And new front office in Washington had a revamp. But I like what those teams you just mentioned, Kings, Trailblazers, Memphis, and Timberwolves. We'll see what pans out if Ant gets an option 1A. If it's not him just holding the ball and them hoping he can score.
So are the Lakers going to draft Bronny today at 55?
Who holds the first pick? The Raptors, I believe.
Let me check.
You have to, right? Don't you have to draft Bronny if you're Lakers?
Raptors are at 31. Warriors are at 52. I don't know why some devious GM won't just draft Bronny ahead of the Lakers and then say, like, you want him? I'll trade him to you.
Yeah, leverage chip, right? If I'm the Raptors, I do it. I mean, again, a lot of this is you look at roster spots, you go, this player's not going to contribute. I don't have anywhere for him to go on the bench. Why wouldn't you draft Bronny? And he's
early congratulations. We're going to say it right here on this pod. Congratulations to Bronny James, the James family. He is now a Los Angeles Laker.
Okay. What time is it?
It's 7:22 a.m. So about 12 hours from now, this will be true. And what will be your reaction when Adam Silver doesn't go up in the second round, does he?
No. It's always like some, here's the biggest fan from the Lakers. So it's probably, Who knows? Cindy Lou from Hermosa Beach that goes up and announces the pick.
It's probably some influencer we've never heard of.
Right, but I'm sure Bronny's got gosh knows how many hats now, because who knows going to pick him. It's one of those things. Let's transition to free agency. The
My
names that
boy
matter.
Klay,
Yes.
where does he end up?
Um. So Klay personally means a lot to me. Klay in college. Remember when we were in New York and
Yeah,
we'd go watch the Knicks play and Melo would put up 30 shots a game,
yeah.
like just continuously and make probably 10% of them.
Play
Klay
no
was the
D.
inverse for us when I was in college. Klay would put up 30 shots and make probably half of them. He scored in abundance. This is why I'm so tied to Klay. But here's in the negotiations with the Golden State Warriors. They said, listen, we have to be emotionless when talking about Klay. But it's so hard to anomalize him in any negotiation because he's done so much for your organization. Klay and Steph are like peanut butter and jelly. It's tough to take one away from the other. But with Klay, here's what I see. The guy is pretty comfortable with where he's at. He's got the boat. He likes coming into the harbor, into the bay. He's enjoying the quality of life he has right now with the Warriors. So I think you could get a discount on what he would fetch in the open market if you're the Warriors and you play your cards right. Now they've talked about Chris Paul and all that. Klay, here's the downside. I wish Seattle had a franchise today because Klay would be the first chip that we would try to add
Yeah.
because he could just take his boat up the coast, dock it
The
in
last
Seattle.
2 days, 2 of the last 3 days, when I was walking Theo in the morning, I've seen the third best Seattle Supersonic of all time. Maybe
Who's that?
fourth, maybe fifth, seventh best. Brent Barry.
Ooh,
Shout out to Bones. But anyways, Klay to Seattle, that would be great.
yes, Klay will do so. Where does it go? He stays home. He stays at. I think there's just a way that they make it work to bring Klay back. Because here's the thing: if you're the Golden State Warriors, K1, and you let him go, and there's a resurgence, Klay finds himself. Klay somehow just says, "Okay, I got a second wind in me." God, you are kicking yourself,
Yeah.
especially if your organization or your team does not do as well. So it's it shouldn't be a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing. I think it's if you do not, then you risk a lot of. I think a lot of fans would be unhappy. I think the team chemistry would be a little awry. And again, seeing Steph without Klay is just be odd to me.
Very odd. I think it's all clickbait. I think he's coming back. I think both sides are negotiating. They want the better part of the negotiation. They have until Saturday. So why would the Warriors offer him anything else? It's going to come right down to the wire, but they're going to sign Klay. It's like that couple you don't want to break up. It's like Jennifer Aniston and Brad Pitt. You want them together, but they are going to be together. And here's why. The Warriors need a shooting guard. Klay is a perfect fit in that offense, even if he took a step back. He was fourth in the league in three-pointers made. And you know what? This is just the market for a shooting guard, 20 plus million a year. You have to do it. So if you don't get Klay, are you telling me you're going to go out and sign Buddy Hield, Gary Trent Jr., Caltavius Pope? Like, they're the same player. You might as well just stick with someone who knows the system and who's going to have a statue outside. I think they're going to sign him. I don't think they can move away from him.
You're right. It's the what is the saying here?
Buyer's dilemma.
It's the devil you know, right? Like, and to your point, you bring someone else in. Yeah, you replace Klay with someone else, and that person fails. Like that's mud in your eye twice. Like, and Klay is just. You said it. The fourth, he didn't live up to standards last year,
Yeah.
but the
Coming
standards
off
are
two
far
grueling
higher.
injuries, right?
Yeah.
Like, this could be the year where he's finally healthy, finally figured out. And you know what? Shooters age well in the NBA. Like, look
Yeah.
at JJ Redick, how long he played. Ray Allen played a long time. Dale Ellis played a long time. Shooters age well in the NBA. He's a great shooter, one of the best of all time. I think he'll figure out and adjust his game as he gets older.
I think he puts a contingency in his contract that he only has to run 3-point line to 3-point line, and that makes his life a lot easier.
A
There's a
lot
lot of more
easier.
tread on the tires in that case. All right, other names in free agency that you're
Paul
tracking.
George wants a 4-year max, and he has the Clippers hostage, in my opinion, right? Ballmer opening up a new stadium, new dome, the Intuit Dome. He does not want to go into that dome with Terrence Mann, Russell Westbrook, a chubby James Harden who just signed a new deal, and Kawhi Leonard, DNP for most of the year. And Paul George has other potential buyers. Orlando could max him. Philly could max him. He's probably painting the picture. You want to see me go? Don't let me go. But here's why he has all the leverage, Big Ben. Because he can go to the Clippers and say, give me the max or else I will walk away in free agency and you'll get nothing. So you either give me the max or you trade me to someone where I can opt in and get the max. And Ballmer, big pockets, does not want to go into next year with an uncertain Kawhi Leonard, a chubby James Harden after parting. Harden's up, will get the contract, but he could be the face of the Clippers. And Paul George knows this.
Yeah, it's who is the face of the Clippers?
Ballmer. It's an ugly face too.
Oh, right, and that's the funny part is like you don't. To answer your question, I don't know who Clippers fans value more, right? Who do they need on that team? Kawhi, is Kawhi one? Is he the face? If Kawhi's gone, what happens then? And Paul George has had trouble in the playoffs. We
Yeah.
know that, and you got a lot of the same player in Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi. It seems like when they're on the court together, none of them are in a rhythm.
No.
Like there's a formula that I think Ballmer's trying to figure out himself.
I think
Like,
Ballmer's just trying to sell tickets and sell out, which he should. But they're not going to build a winner with maxing Paul George, giving Harden a deal. It's just going to help them sell out the arena for the next 2 years before they rip it all off.
at some point, Ballmer, he's not going to run out of money, but he's not going to get the return on investment that he was hoping for.
He is the new Cuban. He's just going to continue to spend and spend and spend until he finds this great Euro player who could take him to the NBA Finals.
Well, that's the thing, right? He doesn't have the luxury of being able to invest in futures. He has to invest in right now, and he probably looks at that. And you're right. Paul George has all the leverage. You know me. I'm one of the probably top 20 players in the NBA. Like, you're going to have to put butts in seats. People know me. They come to watch me. So therefore, you got to pay me.
Yeah.
Like Ballmer doesn't have the luxury of going, I'll trade Paul George for 6 draft picks. Like, that's just not going to work in the Clippers formula, nor especially going in a new arena. Do you want 6 guys in the NBA DL or the G League trying to make it work? So I just don't see. You're right. Paul George is going to get his way.
He's going to get his way. I don't see Paul George coming up to the Warriors either. Like everyone's saying, Chris Paul opts in, Chris Paul and Draymond, or Chris Paul and Kuminga to the Clippers or Paul. I don't see that happening. And if that does happen, it's not, the Warriors aren't that much better with Paul George over Klay Thompson.
Agreed. It's not. Yeah.
The Warriors need to look in the mirror. They are a 8 to 10 seed in the West. I'm a Warriors fan, and it pains me to say it. They're not as good as the Nuggets. They're not good as the Timberwolves. They're not good as the Mavericks. They might not be as good as Memphis or New Orleans or Sacramento.
So you're saying just get who you can on the Warriors. Do no harm in free agency. Run it back. Keep everyone happy, and hopefully you overachieve.
Yeah, make enough transaction or moves to become an 8 seed, but you're not winning it. And Steph, I'm sorry, you'll ride off into the sunset with a 500 team.
All right, a couple other names you're watching.
LeBron, I mean, they draft his son. He could opt in. I don't think he's going to opt out. So, but I think the Lakers are in trouble. LeBron James, you're going to pay him $50 million over the next 3 years.
And he's
And
what, gonna be
AD,
40?
Yeah,
42?
he's 40 next December. He's going to be in the club. We should throw a party for him.
Yeah. All right. Any other names?
Tyrese Maxey, but there's no way Philly lets him walk.
No. He's his trajectory is on the way up. He's proven himself.
I do want to see if the Lakers make a trade. Like we've heard Trae Young, we've heard DeJounte Murray, we've heard Zach LaVine. I want to see if they want to do something else because what the Lakers don't have, they tried to draft a shooter. They still need more shooters. They need more scorers because AD is going to be hurt and because LeBron is going to be aging.
I think DeJounte Murray fits that. Like if I think of the Lakers, they want to get up and down, right? LeBron in the half court is just not pretty. Like he needs to be headed towards the basket, to be honest. DeJounte Murray has great handles. He's a pass first guard, so I like that. He's a Seattle guy too. Get him back on the West Coast.
Yeah, and now that JJ doesn't have his pod, all the listeners will be listening to Big Ben and K Win. We just moved up on the Spotify charts with JJ out. There's a lot of fans out there.
All right.
We're going to wrap this bad boy up?
Let's do it. Big Ben and K-Win at Big Ben K-Win _ wherever you get your social media these days, whether that's Twitter, X, Instagram, not Reels. Come on, help me out here.
Threads,
and TikTok.
For now.
Anywhere where you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartMedia, wherever you're getting your audio podcast, you can find us there. Tune in every Thursday, if you can, live, or catch us on Caffeine TV. Watch us live. Watch us post, anywhere you get your...
The choice is yours.
The choice is really yours. Roku, I think you can get it on now, any smart TV, caffeine.tv. And we won't be free agents for a long time.
Well, but congratulations, Bronny James. Congratulations.